Hello, welcome to the April Makers with Heart collaboration. And this month we are talking stencils. I'm Amanda with Crafting with Amanda, and I'm going to be using this butterfly stencil from the Slimline card front in the core catalog. And what I like about this, I'm trying to show, it's hard to see on camera, that I love the stencils because you can flip it so that you can have them kind of cascading to the left or the right. There's also in the brand new April to June seasonal book this stencil set. So it has the background stencils and then kind of layers on top. And then this set is from the January to March book that just ended, and my understanding is that these are now sold out. They go so quickly. So the thought on that is if there's something you see that you like, go ahead and get it. Now, before I get started with the layout, I do want to mention next Saturday is our virtual crop. It's free. You can search for Makers with Heart virtual crop and ask to join the group. Tell them I sent you over there, and we'll see you next Saturday with all of our free projects and crop. Now here's a companion page that I'm going to make today's page work with in a book, and these are pages for an album for my niece and nephew and their family, and this is their firstborn. So I have the components that I had prepped for the companion page, and that video I posted on Friday the 14th of April, so if you want to check that out you can. And I used the mix-in papers for that. My thought again was for that companion page there was some blue that matched our Bluebird colors, and so I wanted something to go with it. I liked the wood grain, and then orange and blue are complementary colors, kind of like red and green or yellow and purple. And so I'm using the scraps from that layout to kind of give me the jumping off point for this. I know that I'm going to be using stencils in the background so I can bring in texture and colors and all of that I need with those stencils, but just as an kind of a grounding place for the photo and everything, that's where I'm starting. So you can see here I'm taking that slimline stencil with the butterflies, and I think I'm going to have it come up out of the top of the photo there. And then I have the honeycomb stencil that I originally thought I was just going to do full honeycomb down the left-hand edge, but I had cut all these shapes for that companion layout, and so I'm going to make a mask out of the negatives, and you'll see what I'm going to do here. So this is the card thin cut heart shape. I also had one with clouds, but I decided the heart would work with this one photo. And I don't have any content on these photos. I just have photos that my nephew and niece sent us of their family and baby. And so I'm trying to create some beautiful pages for them, and they can tell the story later. I do ink the edges up on these layouts, and in the past or traditionally I use one color for all of my edge distressing. Lately I've kind of gone back to whatever color the paper is, that's kind of the color that I use to ink the edges. So on the blues I use blues. On the wood grain I did use blue because I have an idea that you'll get to see. But on this paper, the papaya from the mix-ins, I use papaya to ink the edges, and you'll see that later. And I'm just taking this scrap and cutting it in half to see if I have enough room to kind of bridge behind the photo, and I do. If I didn't, I had thought about maybe putting the title to cover it so that I could adjust it up and down, but I don't need to do that. So here's where I'm going back with that honeycomb stencil and my mask. I'm just taking my blender brush and then using the outline from those heart thin cuts as a mask over the stencil, and you'll get to see here that it just stencils in a honeycomb heart shape. There is a little bit of smoosh next to the right side of the heart. Don't worry about that. I got you covered. I have a plan. So how I like to do the stenciling is I put my papers on, and then if they're small like this, they don't cover totally up and down. I just move them out of the way, do my stenciling or mixed media work, and then put them back in place, kind of so that I can reevaluate as I go of where I'm going to place things, what tilts I'm going to have on the heart. Do I need things darker? Because with stenciling and using the blender brush, you can make these as dark or as light as you want. You can see in the top left corner that heart has some honeycomb sections that are definitely a darker papaya and other sections that are lighter, and it's all how hard you press with the brush, how much you re-ink it, and just varying those factors will really make a difference in your project. Go and play with stencils, go and play with your supplies. You bought them to use, so as hard as it may be, go ahead and use them. So I finished with my honeycomb stencil and the heart mask, and now I'm looking at these butterflies, and I saw that there was just one little butterfly that peeked out from the right hand edge of the photo, so I'm kind of marking that, and then I'll go ahead and again with the blender brush, I like the blender tool, I like the sponge of the tool through a stencil like this more so than the brush, because the little antenna can kind of get caught in the brushes and lift up, where with the blender tool, by pressing down more perpendicularly on the stencil, I feel like I get a cleaner coverage of those antennae and that. So like I said earlier, I like to kind of dry fit my pieces, and then I'm going to move that stencil up, making sure that one of the butterflies covers that little wing. It ends up being a little darker on camera, and at first as I am seeing it, I was like, oh no, they're all out of balance, but you will see it all blends in. I don't even notice it anymore, and I'm pretty, I don't want to say self-critical, but I've had to learn to give myself some grace. I don't know if you scrapbook that way, but give yourself some grace. So here is the next thing that I'm doing with my stencil is after I sponged everything, I took the papaya shimmer brush and I'm just doing little loops, and you'll see as it dries that it gives a shimmer. It also kind of changes the tone on the inks so that it gives more movement of color in those butterflies, which I absolutely love. So like I said, go and play with your things. I had colored in something, not with stencils, but with blender brushes, and then I wanted to give the petals of a flower, shocking, me with flowers, some more interest, and that's when I found how it changed, the shimmer brushes changed the ink and how they looked. So now I'm going back and I'm just doing kind of the antennae and the bodies of the butterflies, and I chose the charcoal shimmer brush instead of black. The black I thought would just be a little too intense of a color, and this charcoal is just perfect. The orange brown colors in my world go together. There's some toffee color in that wood grain paper that I'm using. So for me, it was just a natural choice to go this way. And I'm just using the stencil to make sure I don't go outside the lines. So now I'm going back to those components that I had cut for the companion page for Friday's video and adding in some more hearts. I'm seeing if I'm going to have enough things or areas that I want to add some of that silver. Even though they're companion pages, I don't think you have to have matchy-matchy, which these are not, but at least all of the color components are going to be the same. I had some clouds in the other one, the other page. I don't feel that I need them here, so I need to audition my pieces, see what kind of balance I have. It's about this point that I'm realizing, oh, where am I going to put my title? Because I got hearts on the left and up the middle. I'm kind of keeping my heavier color concentration towards the center of the photo with the matte and then the two blue hearts. It kind of draws your eye into the photo. But where do I put a title? So as I'm putting these hearts down, I'm trying to work through in my head the balance between having 3 spots of silver. So I have that with the heart and the frame, the postage frame cut out. And then I decided that I needed, as I was thinking about the title, I was going to put it down this edge, and I decided I didn't want to do it there, but I have this stencil that has hearts in it, just wee little hearts. So I masked off with painter's tape. It's about a 1 inch section. It happens to be 3 hearts. I didn't want to have a partial heart, so I didn't do it by width. I did it by what worked with the stencil, that they're 3 hearts wide. And then it's a repeatable pattern, so that's exactly what I'm doing up the side of the page. It's a little difficult to see on camera. In person it shows up, but I also end up highlighting it with some Bluebird ink on that blender tool. I don't actually re-ink it, I just use the residual color that was left on that blender tool, and you'll see that after it dries how that works. I will give you one tip on your texture paste. If you use press and steel paper inside there to help keep it all together and moist, that makes it last a lot longer. And you can always spritz it with a couple spritz of water, and that really helps loosen it up over time. Again, I need to include some journaling spots, so I just cut 1/2-inch strips here. And I'm not doing big areas of journaling. I know the mom loves these layouts. She's a little overwhelmed by the journaling aspect of it, and so I'm trying to give her room to journal without overwhelming. I cut on my Scan and Cut the title Cutie and then Little as well, and I knew when I was cutting it that I was going to use the negative image on the little and back it. Looking at those journaling strips, I went ahead and inked them with papaya ink. And then from the Life's a Hoot card kit, I love this little background noise. It just splotches, but it's a smaller section of splotches than the background element stamp. And I don't want the heavy concentration of papaya, so I'm stamping first generation off on a scrap paper and then using what's left on the ink, or second generation left on the stamp, or second generation, to just kind of fill in some areas in between my hearts. It camouflages that area where I had blender brushed right off of my stencil or outside of my heart mask, and it just adds some more interest and movement to the page. So this is it. This is all that I have in highlighting stencils. So using stencils with a mask, using stencils with texture paste down the side and masking them off, using stencils with just ink and shimmer brush. There's just so many things that you can do with stencils. I am the last of the Makers with Heart this month, I should say. So be sure to check out the playlist below and everything else that the other ladies have to teach you about stencils and showcasing their talent. Hope you have a great day. Blessings.